everybody. It's Thursday, May 21st, and we are here for a special edition of Chatting with Agnes and Cecilia. I'm one of your co-hosts, Cecilia Sepp. I'm the principal and founder of Rogue Tulips. We offer 501c consulting and association management services. I'm here with my co-host and friend, Agnes Amos Coleman. Agnes, would you like to say hello?
Thank you, Cecilia. My name is Agnes Amos Coleman. I'm an author and a consultant. And good afternoon, good evening, and good morning to our global audience, wherever you're joining us from. Over to you, Cecilia.
Thank you, Agnes. And we're so excited today. We have a member of our global audience as a special guest, Dr. Solomon Arase. Dr. Arase is an attorney and security consultant and speaker. He's also published several scholarly papers. He is also a former Inspector General of the Nigerian police force. So welcome, Dr. Arase, and please say hello to our audience.
Thank you very much, Cecilia and Agnes, for having me.
Thank you so much for accepting our invitation. And today we're here to talk about leading with compassion, because Dr. Arase speaks on this topic frequently around the world. And he's here today to share with us some of his thoughts on that. So, Dr. Arase, when you were leading the police force, how did you apply compassionate leadership in that situation?
Thank you very much again, Cecilia. I was the 18th Inspector General of Police. The Nigerian police force is made up of about 400,000 officers and men, spread around 36 states of the Federation, including the Federal Capital Territory, Abuja. The landmass of the country is very, very vast. So you can appreciate, the difficulty policing a very large country, which is almost the size of the United States of America. But the idea was that I had a vision and I also had a mission. The vision was to ensure that we have a professional police system that the people will respect and that will be able to carry out the mandate of policing in the country. Secondly, administratively, the Inspector General is in the operational control of the whole 36 states of the Federation and the Federal Capital Territory in Abuja. Though we have some other constitutional bodies that oversee some of our functions. The National Assembly, both the Senate and the House of Representatives, the Police Service Commission. So it's quite a huge force. And this is the background that we're coming from. And when I took over, the challenge of the mission, carrying out a mission statement, is that I wanted to see how we could win the hearts and minds of the people because of the numeric strength of the men we had. It was not enough to police, every space. We could not dominate every space. So we had to win the hearts and minds of the people, bring them together to start liking the police. Most people, they don't like the police force because when the governments, they come up with bad policies, it is the law enforcement officers who are asked to actually enforce them. So there is this issue of trust between the policing organizations and the people. So we had to win their mind to say, oh, policing is not about the people in uniform alone. It also has to do, with the generality of the public. So that was the background, we took off from. But then, how do you now identify things that will motivate the men? That is where the compassion came in from. It is assumed, that the Nigerian police force is a corrupt, that they are corrupt. They don't adhere to human rights principles. And we had to change that narrative. And how was I going to do that? I told the men, I said, I can motivate you. If you engage in good conduct, it means you will be promoted as and when you are entitled to it. And for anything you do, there is always a cost benefit for good conduct. And secondly, we started thinking about their welfare policies. How can you motivate people whose salary is not such that is sufficient to take care of their everyday need. We've now talked about when you send them out on patrol, especially the field officers, you must be able to provide, the necessary things for them to work with. So the vehicles have to be fueled. You have to give them lunch pack. Then most of them, we were engaged in a lot of anti-terrorist activities in the Northeast and dealing with violent crimes also in some areas. So whenever these policemen are involved in these things, sometimes they get killed. And when they get killed, they leave widows and orphans. So we said, okay, how do you now encourage these boys to go for such dangerous mission? We had to now organize a scholarship scheme for the children of these men who die, fighting crime. That was a very good motivation for them. And it was incorporated. We started encouraging most of their children who were orphaned to go to school and, get scholarship. Their women, we organized for them to have some skill acquisition so that they will be able to fend for themselves. And one of the areas too that we actually thought about reaching out to them in terms of welfare was building low-cost houses for them. In the Nigerian police force, you spend 60 years or 35 years, whichever comes first. And within that period, if you retire, you must be looking forward to, having a place where you can retire to. And we discovered that the junior ranks, they hadn't that opportunity of having, a place of their own to retire to. So with a cooperative scheme and a mortgage scheme, we're able to arrange for, in the different locations of the country, two bedrooms apartments where they can, immediately they get into the system, we start drawing it from their cooperative funds, very, very little on a monthly basis that they will not even notice it, that they are paying for it. And by the time they are spending about 5 or 10 years, they are already house owners, so that whenever they retire, they now retire into those houses. So those were part of the welfare package we came up with to try to encourage them and tell them that, they are doing very well. They are the ones who go out to the highways, at odd hours to go and make sure that our societies are safe. They are the ones who are at the counter to receive complaints. So they must be treated, with some compassion whenever we are dealing with them.
And you've addressed most of, if not all of, Maslow's hierarchy of needs for people: food, shelter, security. And what I love about your plan, Dr. Arase, is that it took into consideration their families, not just the individuals that you were personally leading. So what is your view on your leading of the families of the police? It seems to me that you did some leadership of the families as well.
Yes, absolutely. The families, who we reached out to, especially the ones that, unfortunately, in our country, we discovered that most of the junior ranks are the lower rung. Their wives are not very, very skilled. They are not too educated. So whenever anything happens to, the breadwinner, which is, the police officer, they are always in very dire needs. So that was, the consideration we had, that if you reach out for them, teach them some skills, skill acquisition, maybe tailoring, soap making, things that they can use in generating some income, they will start developing confidence in themselves while their children are being trained, through primary, secondary school, and even those ones who turned out to be highly intellectual, we also give them scholarship to the university levels.
So Agnes, I'm sure you have several comments and questions, so I want to hand it over to you for a moment.
Absolutely. Absolutely, and thank you again, Dr. Arase. From my perspective, there is a distinction between a leader and a compassionate leader. And the difference is clear. It's in the legacy that they leave behind. A leader's legacy is very short-lived, and a compassionate leader's legacy is lifelong. And a lot of what you've shared with us here that you've actually incorporated into your leadership style is definitely going to be lasting for generations to come. So we commend you for that. And one of the things that I really wanted to talk about here, it's more of a thought process for you to share and shed light on it for us. But how do you see, in our world today, in our global economy, and we're dealing with this COVID-19 pandemic that's very global in nature, how do you see leaders in this kind of economy, in this kind of difficulty globally, can begin to adapt and look inward and strive towards that lasting legacy, not just a legacy of a short-term lived legacy, but a legacy that can really benefit the world globally, and being compassionate, not just being a leader? So I want to kind of get your perspective on that, Dr. Arase.
That's a great question.
Thank you very much, Agnes. Well, the world cannot be the same again after, this pandemic, because we suddenly discovered that money is just paper money. It's not going to solve most of the problems that we are dealing with now.
That's right.
Everybody is there is palpable fear in the system. And everybody's looking inwards to see how they can, look within their environment and try and see how they can come up with innovative, ideas in trying to deal with, the issues we are dealing with. For example, in Africa, we have neglected for a long time cultivation of agriculture, and all those type of things. We've been spoiled with the oil money. And now most of the vessels, they are on the high sea, and nobody is actually buying them. And where everybody is scared that in the next 6 months or so, if it continues this way, a lot of people will lose their jobs. There will be a lot of, restructuring within the ministries. So which means that everybody now has to start developing, their individual skills to be able to survive. And, in the new world that is going to be created after, the pandemic.
Thank you.
So Dr. Arase, you just hit on something I think we've all noticed, and the ongoing atmosphere of fear. And as we know, fear is not a good place from which to make decisions. So how can leaders inspire people to embrace and then move through their fear to move on to what the world's going to be like later?
It requires a lot of strategic thinking.
Mm-hmm.
Leaders have to start thinking differently, looking at the people you are leading, trying to inspire them, trying to give them the confidence that things can be better. When you elicit the fear in them, then you are you are missing the point. There must be a way you must give them that self-confidence to say that things are going to be okay. And it depends on how you are able to, on your own, come up with innovative ideas on how these things can be better. And by, not creating fears in their mind to say, things are going to, things are really bad and, it cannot be better. So it's a way of the leaders who want to advise that most of the leaders should be able to look at their people and give them that courage to tell them that they can confront, this danger that is in front, and they can also surpass it.
So kind of bringing it back to our subject of leading with compassion, what is your definition of leading with compassion?
Is having that empathy, putting yourself in the position of, the people you are leading. Supposing you are not as, you were not as lucky as they were to get to the position you were, how do you think, you would have looked like? So you must be able to put the people that you are dealing with in your own position and say, supposing I was the one who was there, how would I have, dealt with this issue? So it is actually being empathetic, about the people that, you are leading.
Empathy is so important in building relationships. I'm glad you brought that up. So many people don't apply it, and they're not considerate. And I think many times it's because in our daily lives, it's about us. It's about our experience in our day, and we don't think about the other people that we're encountering during the day. And if you were teaching someone, Dr. Arase, how to be empathetic, what kind of steps might you advise them to do? Because trying to put yourself in the other person's shoes is a start, but there has to be steps to do that. So how might you coach someone into doing
that? It's about emotional intelligence. It's also about emotional intelligence. How are you able to look at the person and say, you can be better? You can do things better. So that way you continue to encourage them. And one area where I did not mention earlier was the area of training. We took training very seriously, because if you don't teach your subordinates how to go about doing certain things, they will not be able to do it very well. So we took training very, very, both domestic training and international training. We exposed them to international best practices. We got the American groups, the FBI, we got the Germans, we got the Metropolitan Police officers. So we're able to expose them and give them this self-confidence that they can do these things. And with training and retraining, you can always, inspire people to, rise above, their present situations in life.
And that's something that I noticed earlier when you were describing the system you created to kind of change public perception of the Nigerian police force and to give them the self-confidence to go out. You gave them more than money, and you gave them more than things. You gave them self-confidence, as you said, but you've also given them self-respect and dignity, which to me are the two most important things we can give any individual. So do you feel that your efforts in that area have paid off in the long term and will continue forward? As in, do you think that the people of Nigeria will continue to have a positive opinion of the police who work for them? And will the police continue that trend of self-respect and self-improvement?
Well, Cecilia, that is one problem that we have in our system, sustainability of policies. It depends on the leadership. When you don't have a succession plan, when you don't have control over your successor, then it means whoever is thrown up comes in with his own, ideas about how to drive a system. If they don't sustain what you have left on time, then you discover that there are usually gaps, that are left. And that is one area where we have serious problem in Africa. We are not able to have sustainability of policies. Whoever comes wants to experiment with different policies. And when you are not able to deepen the policies you have put in place over a period of time, then sometimes you discover that you have reversals. And I think that is exactly what happens in most African countries.
Well, and I think that's something, as you know, Agnes and I work with nonprofit groups as our client base, and we see that a lot, especially with strategic plans. As a new chairman of the board comes in, or chairwoman of the board comes in, they have their own ideas, and it ceases to be about the plan and becomes about that individual. So I completely agree with you on sustainability. And it's something Agnes and I think about a lot and talk about a lot. What are your thoughts on that, Agnes?
Well, I totally agree, and I'm just going to shift the conversation a little bit, because I'm very interested in life after retirement for Dr. Arase, and he's retired now. And Dr. Arase, I want you to share with us, what's life been for you as a leader after retirement? I know you're doing a lot of work. You've set up your own consulting practice. So talk to us a little bit about that, because I really want to give hope to our leaders leaders like us, upcoming leaders and leaders who already are in existence, to kind of strive to be that compassionate leader and to realize that there is life after retirement, and you can even do greater things. You can impact people even better after retirement. So I kind of want to get your take on that, Dr. Arase.
Thank you very much, Agnes. Before I retired, I told myself that I was going to start documenting most of my experiences in 35 years of policing, that I would not just allow it to, to go to waste. I will put it in book forms, allow the younger ones who are coming in to read them, benefit from my experiential knowledge about the system that I was in 35 years. So I started doing that, documenting most of my policies and actions while I was still in the system. And when I left, I did not stop there. I still continued public speaking, going to strategic institutions like NIPS, the Defense College, the Institute of Security Studies. I go to share my thoughts, with them on a constant basis. And I also learn too, because whenever I go to those, I have such platforms, I discover that some of my ideas are no longer contemporary. So from the question and answer sections, I just discovered that I am also developing myself. And that is how it has been. Yes, I run a legal practice, but that legal practice is not the passion that I actually have. I have the passion for security sector reforms. So I have joined other people both within and outside the system in developing protocols, trying to see how can, we have a police force that is respected, that is professional, that is, competent, that you have a problem, you go to a police station or a police officer, and you feel confident that, your problem is going to be solved. And also, I am I'm still interested in seeing police officers having self-confidence, having the ability to, share their thoughts, be sympathetic to members of the public. One area the Nigerian police force or African police force had issues was that the establishment of the police forces in Africa was based on force. They were established to allow the colonialists exploit the mineral resources. So now, I'm so many years after independence, we think that there must be a paradigm shift. You now start to have that, social content of policing, where you see the people as your own people, you treat them as one, because before you became a policeman, you were a civilian. So when you retire, you are going to go back, as a civilian. So, you just have to be nice to people, because you are still, you are likely to meet them when you leave the system, of policing.
Very profound. Thank you for that thought process. I think you pretty much covered it all as far as that empathy in leading, and even after, after this years of, after retiring, you're still carrying on an impact and knowledge, leading and providing a forum for upcoming leaders and even leaders to learn from what you're doing. And then the same process, developing yourself. I think that you're definitely an example of a great leader. Again, I go back to that difference. There's difference between leaders and compassionate leaders are usually great leaders. So you're definitely an example of that, and we definitely appreciate you. Over to you, Cecilia.
Oh, great. Thank you, Agnes. And I so appreciate those comments, Dr. Arase, because you are making sure that your knowledge survives into the future and is going to help other people. So that leads us to another one of our favorite topics, which is mentoring. So do you see a role of mentoring in what you're doing as you continue your passion for improvement in the security area?
Yes, absolutely, Cecilia. Whenever I go to deliver a paper in any of these institutions, or I meet with, I go to give a talk or engage in security sector reforms, I could see a lot of these young men, they are hungry for knowledge. They look at you, they admire you, they say, oh, I wish I can talk like you. I wish I can have a pool of knowledge, to drink from, just, the way you are giving it to us. So you see, it's the more contact you have with them, the more you are able to, to win them to your side. And most of them that I have been associated with, they are already coming up within the system. And I still watch them. Even sometimes when they give interviews on television or so, I call them. I say, oh, this thing you said was very, very correct, but there was a gap. Next time when you are going to say it this way, so that it will be able to have the impact, that you actually deserve. And they are always very happy that I still keep in touch with them. I still am interested in what they are doing. And I continue to, encourage them that they can always do better and be greater than me, with time.
That's fantastic. That is fantastic. First of all, thank you. Because again, that's one of our favorite topics, right, Agnes? Mentoring and helping other people develop. So, Dr. Arase, we're coming close to the end of our time with you today, and we want to thank you again. But we always like to ask all of our guests to kind of summarize, what is it you would like the audience to take away today? And if they can contact you later, what might be a good way to contact you?
Thank you very much, Cecilia and Agnes. What I just want to say is that everybody who has an opportunity to get to a strategic position where you can effect policies that will touch the lives of people, you should make sure that you don't miss that opportunity, because all of us will have a terminal date. You come into a system, before you know it, 35 years is gone. And you start asking yourself, what did I do? Are there imperishable legacies that I have left behind that, will endure for a very long time? So it is very, very important for leaders to be able to leave legacies that you can feel, you can touch, people can talk about, they can see them. They are not, things that you just conjure from the air. And the carrot and stick approach too, in terms of leadership, is always very. When somebody has done something that you feel is not right, punish the person, but also draw him close to say, next time you don't do that. That is only the time you will be able to have the moral attitude to be able to say, oh, I gave you sufficient time to change. I trained you. I gave you welfare packages, and I wanted you to be professional. So why have you not become professional? So I want to thank you for giving me the opportunity. And anybody who wants to reach me can reach me on my email address, soloarase@hotmail.com.
Thank you so much.
I am also, okay, thank you very much.
I'm sorry, please share your next thought. I just want to thank you for sharing your actual direct email address with our audience. That's fantastic. Do you also have a website perhaps people could visit?
Yes, the soloarase@hotmail.com also have the website for, the law firm, and also the security consultancy company. Is Solar Security at yahoo.com. Solar Security Consult.
Thank you so much. Agnes, any closing thoughts before we end for today? Oh, it looks like things are happening. Okay, well, we'll wrap up for today. It looks like Dr. Arase is being called away to another meeting.
I just wanted to echo your thoughts and thank Dr. Arase for this time. We've definitely enjoyed your time. We enjoyed your insight, and hopefully you will be able to guest our show one more time in the near future. But we just wanted to appreciate you for taking the time out of your busy schedule.
Yes, thank you so much.
Having me. Thank you for having me, Cecilia and Agnes. Thank you.
You are most welcome, and we do look forward to having you back. It's been a wonderful conversation. Thank you so much. Oh, well, it's time for us to go. You're welcome. I almost forgot about the ending. It's been such a wonderful conversation, but it's time for us to go rogue, as we like to say every week. Wonderful conversation again with Dr. Solomon Arase, security expert and leadership expert. We'll be back with another episode the first week of June. We're taking Memorial Day off. Well-deserved, I think, all around for all of us in the world today. And as Agnes and I like to say, take 15 minutes and talk to somebody because you might learn something. So goodbye for now, everyone, and we'll see you again next week or in 2 weeks. Bye.
Bye.